Today we're joined by Mandy Mitchell, Executive Director of the Free Will Baptist Children's Home in Eldridge, Alabama. Mandy has led the ministry since 2016, and she has walked very closely with children and families through some very difficult seasons of life. So we're doing a whole series of videos just about the home and about what Mandy does and about the children that are there. And in this video, we're going to start just by hearing a little bit about Mandy and about the home in general. And then we'll kind of dive into a topic that people don't often discuss. And I kind of think maybe it's because they don't know to discuss it or they're not aware of the reality of it. But that's just failed adoptions. You know, what happens when you have this plan to adopt a child and then for whatever reason it falls through, and then it's like, what next? So we'll get to that in a second. But first, I just want to hear a little bit about the home and just kind of tell us about you and how you got into the role that you're in and what the home does.
Okay, well, I am a social worker. That's what I have done. And I came to the Children's Home in 2011 as a social worker.
Okay.
And never had a inclination to be an administrator. I just thought I would be working on the child care end, and things happen as they do. Yeah. And I sort of got launched into that, and I've learned a lot. In my position, I do social work, but I also sometimes am a contractor. I am a real estate advisor and purchaser. There's a lot of things that I do. Yeah. And advertising, promotion, all those things. Right. So
event planner.
Yes, event planner.
Probably janitor every once in a while.
Sometimes, yes. Doing some heavy lifting for some of our events. So anyway, it's, I believe, what I'm supposed to be doing, and I do enjoy it, and it's a blessing in my life. The Children's Home has been in Eldridge since 1947. Been ministering to families for that long. Back when it was opened, it was more like an orphanage. Yeah. It was dorm style. Sometimes through the years, the 50s, 60s, 70s, there'd be 80 children there. Wow. So, but we have helped a lot of families in that time. And in the 90s, it transitioned to be more of a family home-like environment, which I'm really glad that it did. It was needed for the age that we're in.
It feels much more cozy, sort of.
Right, right. So right now we have 4 houses, 2 for girls, 2 for boys, divided by ages, with house parents who live there. Okay. And our goal is for it to be as much like a normal home as possible, and for kids to get to experience things that any other kid would get to experience.
That's amazing. That's really cool. So we'll talk more about all of that throughout the series and kind of more about the home and get a little bit more in depth on that. But I do want to get into our topic specifically for this video, which is when adoptions don't go as planned. So can you kind of give me a little bit of an overview of what it means for an adoption to fail?
So basically, you know, these families have a heart to help children, and sometimes it's domestic adoptions, sometimes it's international adoptions. And almost every time that a child is adopted, it is because their biological family cannot care for them. Yeah. Due to usually substance abuse, domestic violence, mental health issues on their part, all kinds of reasons. So these children have been through a lot. They have all been through some kind of trauma. Yeah. And so, you know, in modern day, the world that we live in, the goal in child welfare is adoption for children who are not able to live with their parents to be adopted into a family. And that's a wonderful idea. But sometimes it doesn't work out, and the main reason why is because of the trauma that the children have experienced. When you think about what they had lived in with their biological families, they had been physically abused, they've been neglected. And when those things happen at such a young age, their brains don't form like children who have received the normal nurturing and attention that you would expect. Right. So they have these parts of their brain that haven't formed correctly, and it causes issues with their behavior, with their regulating their emotions, with their intelligence, and even with being able to have, you know, decision making with, you know, things that we take for granted, planning things. And then there's also the issue of prenatal drug exposure and alcohol exposure. When children are exposed to that prenatally, they have other brain challenges that can happen that cause all kinds of issues. So when parents choose to adopt, a lot of them don't realize what exactly they're getting into and the challenges that could be ahead because of what the children have already been through.
Right.
And even when you adopt a newborn, if they have been if they have this prenatal drug exposure or the alcohol exposure, there can still be significant problems.
Right.
So, some adoptions go perfectly. You know, kids adjust well.
Yeah.
Kids can be very resilient, and they fit into the family just like they were biological.
Yeah.
But then some kids don't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you have behaviors that you don't know how to deal with, that your own children did not have, and also with these children, they don't respond to discipline the way that maybe your biological children did because of the trauma they've experienced. And so all the things that you know to do, that you were taught to do as a parent, doesn't work that way with some of these children. So you're sort of like at a wit's end. What do I do now?
Wow.
And it can be very challenging, especially because a lot of the families that we work with, they have their biological children that they're trying to care for. They have jobs. They have their own stressors. And then they have these difficult behaviors in these children they're dealing with. And they don't know how to continue normal life that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a lot.
It is.
That would be a heavy burden to carry. Well, tell me what people typically misunderstand about a failed adoption. Are there some misconceptions kind of surrounding this that you've seen?
Well, I think one of the first ones is that adoptions can fail.
Right.
That not every adoption works out just like parents want to.
Right.
So there's that. And there's also the conception that the parents have done something wrong, that it's their fault. And I was talking to one person who had come onto our campus, and this is sort of a newer ministry for our children's home that we sort of fell into, I would say about 4 years ago, when I just started to get some out-of-state referrals for these adoptive families who were struggling with the children they adopted. And I started to see there are just not a lot of resources for these families.
Yeah.
When you adopt out of foster care and you bring them to your home, there a lot of times are no services, especially with international adoptions. And we do have children with us who have been adopted internationally. There are definitely no services for an international adoption if it doesn't go well.
Wow.
So what we found is that our program is suited for some of these children, and they can do well and adjust.
Yeah.
So back to your question, why do adoptions fail? People have the misconception it could be something the parents have done, or how could they send them away? But what they don't understand is that sometimes you're just at a loss.
Yeah.
And when you have children that you didn't raise from the minute they were born, it's just different, especially when they have been through so much.
Right, right. And so when this does happen, you've kind of already talked a little bit about what kind of leads to this kind of situation, but how does that feel for the child and then for the parents? What do you see people going through on both sides?
So for the parents, they feel like a failure. They feel like they could have done something wrong. They also feel like they have very little support.
Yeah.
And they also may not have even support of their family and friends because their families may not exactly understand. And one thing that's interesting about these situations is that a lot of times the child's behavior is only present in the adoptive home. They're not
other people are not seeing it.
They're not seeing it. The children are not having these behaviors at school. They may not even be having these behaviors at grandparents' house or at aunt or uncle's house. And so the families don't always understand what is going on.
So why is that? Why is it sometimes only in the adoptive family home?
It goes back to the trauma that the children have experienced and attachment and bonding issues. So when you go back to thinking about an infant, when you were a baby and you cried, someone picked you up and decided what you needed. And so for these children, when they cried and they needed something, there wasn't always someone to find what they needed.
Yeah.
So they learned instinctually, even as an infant sometimes, there was no one coming to save them. There was no one coming to meet their needs, and that they couldn't trust people. So what it is they come into these homes and they're established homes, and a lot of these children are not adopted as infants. You know, they're toddlers or they're older, and they're these pre-made families that they're supposed to fit into, and they're supposed to feel like this is mom and this is dad and this is brother and sister, but they don't always feel that. And it's hard for them to have that trust for these people because they've never been able to trust people before. And so when you don't trust someone, and you may not even know what that means, like these kids, they don't know what that means, but they have this feeling inside of them that they don't understand. And that's where some of these behaviors come from. Because they don't know how to express, I don't know how to trust you. Or I don't understand that I don't trust you. And I'm supposed to be a part of this family, but I don't feel a part of this family.
So that just all comes out.
It all comes out.
Okay.
And usually, you know, it comes out as, you know, disruptive behavior, anger, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah. Wow. So, bringing this back around to Free Will Baptist Children's Home, you're getting children who are walking through your door after being through something like this. How are you supporting them? Like when they walk in, they've just come from a failed adoption. I imagine, that there's no words, right, for how that must feel. So what do you do when they walk in? How do you support them?
We don't really say that we do anything magical. And the one thing to understand is that a lot of these children, they want to be somewhere else. So I know there might be the idea of, well, here are these children just being abandoned again. But a lot of these children feel so uncomfortable in these adoptive homes, they do want to be somewhere else, and they have vocalized that. And one of the things that we do is we are not like this pre-cut family for them to be in. There are not the expectations that they are in these adoptive homes. So we don't have expectations of them except for just to do, you know, normal things. And that is to be respectful, be polite, do your best in school. You don't have to call me mom and dad. I'm not your mom and dad, but I'm just here to help you. They're also surrounded with children who know exactly what they've been through. So that there is a peace and comfort in that too. And we listen and we show up. And one of the biggest things we do is consistency and structure. Your yes is yes, your no is no. When I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. When you're not supposed to do this and you do this, this is what's going to happen every time. When you do what you're supposed to do, this is what's going to happen every time.
And then for the family that, you know, had a heart for adoption, didn't go like they thought it would go, they're changing course. What kind of support is available to them?
So our house parents are able to be a support to them, and some of the families are receptive to that and some are not. You know, we encourage the families to continue to be involved in their child's life because this is their forever family, their adoptive parents. And so when they are older, when it's the holidays, you know, that's what we want to be their home base. And over time, what we see is that the children do want to have a relationship with their adoptive parents where maybe before they didn't, that they resented it, but now they do. And so we do have a counselor on staff who is available if the family wants to do family counseling to work on their relationship. You know, we offer that. And just keeping in contact with them, keeping them up to date, arranging visitation because we want them to have visits. We want them to have phone calls and just to continue that relationship.
I think that's great. Well, this has been great talking with you about an uncomfortable topic, which is adoptions that don't work out. And it's interesting to me to see that it still, you know, really can be redeemed in the end. Like this was not the path that we thought we were going down, but in the end, it can still be a really beautiful thing. And thank you for being very honest and compassionate in our conversation. And I just wanted to say, if you are a family who's facing uncertainty after an adoption that's been disrupted, there is guidance and support available. Visit fwbhome.org. This is Alabama Free Will Baptist Children's Home. Mandy Mitchell, and they are here to support you and your family. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. It was such a joy to talk to you.